Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and of course, continuing on with the Superman review marathon. And yes guys, yep, we've now come to the fourth installment, because, yeah, for those that, felt that, things couldn't have got worse, and with the third installment, having Superman with Richard Pryor, things would definitely become far more worse for the Superman film series. In 1987, at the time, we would get the fourth and final installment in the Superman film series, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Yeah. So, the first things I have to say about Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Well, I'll be completely honest. I could handle the fourth installment more than the third installment. I'm just simply saying, because for Superman 4, I really like the concept and idea with what was brought into the story for the fourth Superman film. Not to mention, it was something that Christopher Reeve wanted to, do for the fourth installment, what he had in mind, and he would have huge involvement, not just, starring as the titled character once again, but have involvement in the story, and with a certain subject, he considered for being in the storyline of The Quest for Peace, and, hence the title, Quest for Peace. And I think that, because some of the characters that are in this film, like, most prominently, we have Gene Hackman once again back as Lex Luthor, and he's responsible for what he does this time in order to take down Superman that involves nuclear weapons and so on, and creating this living being that's a combination of Luthor's genius and with Superman's powers and with nuclear missiles that were thrown into the sun. That's a lot to process, and, just even what the Nostalgia Critic said in his top 11 dumbest Superman moments, you know what I'm talking about, and I think that, because with, what the story has to offer, the whole thing of, the nuclear missile thing and, nuclear arms race, that thing, is very interesting, and because in the film, Superman being approached to handle this situation, because, it's not good at first, but until Superman is approached by a young boy to solve this problem and to basically get rid of the nuclear missiles all throughout the globe and, just dispose it into the Earth's sun. But for Lex Luthor to continue and just keep that alive, with the whole nuclear thing and such, but, I can see where, of course, even though this movie had an interesting idea, and with what Christopher had in mind for the film, what he hoped would be done right in this film, sadly, it wasn't that strong. And the fact that the fourth Superman film is a very short Superman film, because, it's only, say, 1 hour and 33 minutes. So, it's the shortest Superman film we had ever gotten, and golly, because, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes, a 10% score! Sadly, that's how bad this movie is. And I don't know, because who am I asking? Because I was literally about to ask myself and to you, this is worse than, say, Superman 3? Because, like I said, I can handle this more than, say, the third Superman film. Now, you saw what I had to say in my review of the third film, but I'm just simply saying, because, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, just overall, it is what it is, sadly. I can handle it. I can totally handle it. But despite the fact that, there's a lot of messy stuff to it, and, but the more I talk about it, so, But just overall, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, it is what it is, sadly. I find it okay. Alright. So, with the first things I've had to say about Superman 4: The Quest for Peace out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Seeing the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in a nuclear arms race that could lead Earth's destruction, Superman decides that he must take action. He collects all the nuclear warheads from the world and throws them into space, which, and as I mentioned, throwing it into Earth's sun. Meanwhile, Superman's nemesis, Lex Luthor, has broken out of prison with his new scheme. He clones Superman with radioactive material to create Nuclear Man, and being just as powerful as the Man of Steel. Okay, so, now that I've read the description / the story with it out of the way, let's talk about some background, because, and the background I'll share for this, because, because after the disappointing, disastrous failure of Superman 3, Christopher Reeve, he decided to step back from the titled character. And seeing as how that Reeve had completed his 3-picture deal of playing the titled character himself. However, the Salkinds were one day hoping that at some point down the road, a 4th Superman film would happen. And, they would do something else in the Superman franchise with 1984's Supergirl. And just 1 year after Supergirl, they would then do, say, Santa Claus the movie. And that was basically trying to replicate the success of the first Superman film. But because both films, Supergirl and Santa Claus the movie, were both failures, the Salkinds then realized that, the franchise had run its course, and, that's when they sold the Superman film rights to the Cannon Film Group, and the Cannon Film Group, because, at that time and before, because, they did, the 4th Superman film. Well, they weren't making a big name of themselves, Cannon Films, because with some of the films that they've made not doing so good, but they occasionally did have a few successors, and I think, Cannon Films would probably be most known for doing Invaders from Mars, and I'm sure, you are familiar with that title, Invaders from Mars, but, eventually the Cannon Films decided that they wanted to go into the blockbuster, business of films, you know what I'm saying? And, they would manage to snatch the film rights of Superman. And, it took a lot to convince Christopher Reeve to return as the titled character, and under one condition, because Christopher would do the 4th Superman film if Cannon Films would bring to life a film project that Christopher Reeve was heavily involved in, which being 1987's Street Team. Oh, yeah, because it came out the same year as Superman 4, so I guess 2 biggies for Christopher Reeve, but sadly for Street Team, that too was not much of a huge success, I mean, there were a few good things to come from that film, like most prominently, Morgan Freeman, because Morgan Freeman got praised from being in this movie, and he got a Oscar nomination for his performance, so but yes, it's a shame for poor Christopher Reeve at that time, because, when Reeve obviously was hoping that both films that he would star in, that Cannon Films were going to do, hoping that maybe they could succeed, but sadly no, And, even from the beginning, Christopher Reeve and the others that were working on the 4th Superman film knew and sensed that, things were already not looking too good for the 4th installment, literally. So, and, because them bracing themselves for when this movie was finally complete and making its way in 1987, and by the way, The Quest for Peace actually came out the same day as one of my favorite movies, La Bamba. I just thought I'd mention it because it's true, so but, And yeah, and it's obvious because knowing some of the behind-the-scenes and facts of what went down in the making of The Quest for Peace, with Christopher Reeve being heavily involved in the film's storyline, and, he unfortunately had some disagreements, a lot of disagreements with, the director most prominently, because actually at one point, the late Wes Craven, the same guy who brought us Nightmare on Elm Street and the Scream movies, was going to direct The Quest for Peace, but unfortunately, Wes and Reeves, they didn't get along, so yeah, they had some disagreements. Then Christopher Reeve at one point suggested Ron Howard to direct the fourth Superman film. Now, imagine what that would have been like if maybe Ron Howard had directed the fourth installment. Maybe some good would have come out of it, thanks to Ron, but that, of course, didn't happen. So then, the official director for Superman, The Quest for Peace would be Sidney J. Furie. Yeah, I think I got his last name right. And turns out that both Sidney and Christopher also didn't get along while working on the fourth installment, according to Margot Kidder. Jeez Louise. Well, I'm sure for poor Sidney J. Furie, he tried his best, but anyways. Because, from Christopher Reeve, the writers, the director, and those from Canon Films, I'm sure they tried their damnest, but, sadly for Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, because look how it turned out. You know by now. Alright, but so that's it for background, so let's dive in / break down the film itself. Oh boy. Because, again, so much happening and a lot of messy stuff going on. But, again, at the same time, for me, I think I followed quite good. And like I said earlier, I can handle this more than, say, Superman 3. But, you've heard what I've had to say about Superman 3. Not that I hate Superman 3, but, it's obvious that for me, Superman 3's is not one of my favorites. How can it not be? And because I gave that 5 out of 10 stars, But wait till you see how many stars I'll give Superman 4, and as you watch my review. All right, so now getting into the film itself / breaking it down, because well, first off, because I think we can already tell because it's off to a bad start because golly, the opening credits to Superman 4, they're not that good. And I'll go ahead and mention this because someone on social media, a fan, actually took the privilege to remaster Superman 4, The Quest for Peace for, himself. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Very interesting, because, seeing some of those clips, especially the opening credits, spot on, because the opening credits to Superman 4 missed out on a few things. One, the credits being so detailed, and them flying in the air is awesome, and the swooshing sounds just didn't have that. I mean, at least, it did have the opening credits be in space, just like in the first two films. And the third one, of course, that didn't do it, But the opening credits, they are what they are. Then seeing Superman himself, once again being played by Christopher Reeve, there's one moment where we see Russians in space, there's a malfunction that happens, something hits, their probes and stuff like that, but Superman, of course, stepping in and helping them out, because, one astronaut was floating away, but Superman saving him, and Superman speaking Russian. I don't see anything wrong with it, because why wouldn't Superman speak in other languages? I mean, because we would see him speak in a few other languages later on in the movie, And also, to go ahead and mention this, because, the visual effects in Superman 4, there are some that I think are okay, like, the effects that are done on Nuclear Man, they seem fine, and some of the outer space shots are okay too, but most of them not so good. And most infamously, I should say, this one shot of Superman flying straight towards the camera that they reuse constantly. Occasionally, there are some shots where they're different with how Superman is posing and with his facial expressions, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, just golly, that's another big bad sign, just man. They apparently got lazy with some of the shots of Superman flying where he's flying straight towards the camera. Golly, but no hard feelings on those that did the visual effects for the fourth installment. Just yeah. Anyways, but yeah. So well, yeah. Then after that, with Superman saving the Russians. Well, by this point, back at Smallville. Superman's childhood home, you know, the farm and such that he was born and raised on by his human parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent. It's being sold, you know, for auction and such. And there's a moment where Superman / Clark Kent goes back in one of the barns and rediscovering, you know, the crystal ship that he flew in when he crash landed on Earth. And there's one more piece of a green crystal that he discovers, and it does come in handy for Superman very later on in the movie. And there's even one moment where Superman's mother, her voice, yes, and Laura Kell, Susanna York voicing Laura, and just, yeah, with what she specifically mentions to her son, Kal-El, because, yeah, that being the actual name of Superman. Something about the crystal and such, just, yeah. And by using that crystal, then, you know, he will be totally alone, because no longer, you know, having those from Krypton being right there and just so on, yeah. And by the way, because, you know, keep in mind, because, you know, the fact we didn't get more of Jor-El by the second installment, then we got Superman's mother, which, of course, you know this, and how it was brought up in, you know, the review of Superman 2. But anyways, so, then there's a moment where Clark meets with the guy, because, you know, about the whole thing of, you know, the Kent farm being sold, and just, yeah. And it's going to be sold, you know, and be turned into like a shopping center. But actually, yeah, Kent doesn't want that. He wants it to be exactly as it is, and rightfully so, because there's got to be a farm, and just, yeah. And, you know, someone good to properly take care of the farm as it should be, you know? It should still be a farm. And, you know, they're talking a little bit about, say, Jonathan Kent. And also, we see a baby crib that held young Clark. And it's broken because, obviously, yeah, and as it's mentioned, because, yeah, baby Superman broke the crib. Just, yeah, like a fuss and such. But, yeah, anyways. But, okay, and to speed things up some, because, yeah, then what happens next is, well, because, yeah, things are not looking good for the Daily Planet, because, you know, even before that, because, well, Lois Lane and Clark, they're making their way to the Daily Planet before, when they arrive on what is about to happen to the poor Daily Planet business, a moment where, yeah, because they're in the New York, well, not New York, the Metropolis, because, well, yeah, New York being depicted as Metropolis in the Superman films. But yeah, where they filmed Superman 4, and now that I'm talking about it, because yeah, you know, it looked fine to be depicted as Metropolis, but yeah, it is painfully obvious because, well, yeah, a good majority, well, yeah, I think, yeah, the entire majority of them, you know, where they filmed Metropolis, you know, in London and such, and yeah, because, well, yeah, basically, you know, it's, I don't know, it's just, yeah, the way that, where they filmed it in London, and just, yeah, because looking at the key locations, like, I mean, yeah, and you can tell, like, you know, where it was filmed, and because, like, especially, like, in the subway tunnel, or some shots outside, and, yeah, there were supposed to be 1 or 2 matte paintings, but that didn't come to be, just, yeah, but, you know, it is what it is, sadly, with how, you know, where they filmed being depicted as Metropolis, but yeah, but, as I was saying, like, there's a moment where, yeah, catching a subway train. Clark missed the train that Lois gets on, but something goes wrong with the subway train. The train driver actually passes out, I guess like having a heart problem, yeah. And the train doesn't slow down, and Lois calling out for help, Clark hearing Lois's cries for help, and, well, changing into Superman, and Superman slowing down / stopping the train, yeah. Even, this is nice, where he informs everyone, like, the firemen and so on, that to, rest assured that the train systems and such for Metropolis are of safe transportation, and yeah, because this was not intentional, and it was not intentional of the train driver, just, yeah, okay. But after that, yeah, Clark finally making his way to Metropolis. He's a little late. Lois managed to make it there on time. And yeah, Lois Lane, once again, being played by the late Margot Kidder. Also, Jimmy Olsen returning. And Jimmy Olsen, once again, being played by Mark McClure and Perry White, Jackie Cooper. What's happening at Daily Planet is, well, it's now about to be bought by this jerk, pretty much, by the name of David Warfield. Yeah, David Warfield, who is a media mogul, if I'm saying that right, and tabloid publisher, yeah, and his attempt to fully buy Daily Planet, to make it more profitable and so on, because, yeah, him saying that Daily Planet hasn't made money in 3 years and it's not making good progress, but him hoping to make it successful and better than ever. But everybody at Daily Planet does not like the direction that he takes for Daily Planet. Even getting his daughter in the business, too, of Daily Planet, eventually giving her a proposition in Daily Planet. Yeah, and, well, because, yeah, I mean, the character of David Warfield, he's fine. I mean, he's just one of those characters where, he's making bad choices and, in the business and such. But, and David Warfield being played by Sam Wanamaker, and his daughter, Lacey Warfield, being played by Mariel Hemingway, if I'm getting her last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. So, yeah, already, this is not a good sign for those that are a part of Daily Planet. Even Perry White, he doesn't like this as well. Not to mention that, all the, some of these, trip plans, like Lois was going to make a trip to Paris for a report and so on, but all of that's been canceled, so yeah. But to make things even far more worse, at one point, they see this on the news, where, yeah, because the whole nuclear arms stuff and the president announcing this, and it's not a really good sign, just, yeah. So yeah, that makes things even far more worse for, the citizens of Metropolis, those that work at Daily Planet, and the entire world, pretty much. Just, yeah. But then at one point, yeah, because there's a moment in a school where the teacher is trying to have everyone be, relax and, be positive and such, and maybe there can be a solution to handle this. And a young boy by the name of Jeremy, being played by young Damien McLawhorn, I think I am pronouncing his last name correctly, maybe. But point being is that Jeremy takes the opportunity to recommend Superman to handle this situation with what is going to happen with the nuclear arms stuff. Yeah. Meanwhile, well, we get the return of Lex Luthor himself, Gene Hackman, yes. And, of course, yeah, Gene Hackman, who was absent from the third film, and as I explained in my review of Superman 3, yeah. But it's great to see that, yeah, for one last time, we see the late legendary Gene Hackman as one of the, Superman's top arch enemies, Lex Luthor himself, the greatest criminal mind, as he refers to himself. But yeah, and the nuclear arms. Yeah, I meant to say that, nuclear arms race. I got to keep that in mind. But anyways, so our introduction of Lex Luthor, because still in prison, and he's now whistling Mozart music. However, at one point, he is rescued and, broken and helped being broken out of prison by his nephew. And his nephew, and I thought that, Lex Luthor's nephew, he was an okay character, Lex Luthor's nephew being Lenny, being played by Jon Cryer, whom before was already best known for being in John Hughes' Pretty Pink, that. And, of course, what would come next for Jon Cryer? Well, most prominently, 2.5 Men, and coincidentally, he would do something else in the DC comic world where he would actually get to portray Lex Luthor in the CW DC universe. Yep, so, just again, what a coincidence. He started off playing Luthor's nephew and getting to play Luthor himself. Man. But, so anyways, so Lenny making his entrance in this really cool vehicle. This gets the attention of 2 guards. They check out the car, and Lenny, using a remote control to activate the car, closing the doors, the windows, the canopy, and driving the car straight into a ditch, and it explodes. But apparently the 2 guards survived that. But with all that happening, Lenny's attempt to free his uncle, Lex. And them making their escape. And what Lex is about to do this time, well, because there's a moment at this museum that I presume is dedicated to Superman, because there's like a section we see that has a bit of Superman, like a big statue figurine of Superman, and apparently the tour guide mentions to the tour guests that Superman donated a strain of his hair to hold a very heavy steel ball. So apparently, even Superman's hair is very strong. I mean, I don't know, because I don't seem to recall knowing anything about if people complained about that. A strand of hair, Superman's hair, being very strong, and who cares? I mean, I'm not making a huge deal about it, but I just thought of that, because did anybody complain about that? Because I don't seem to, but okay. Then, when the museum is about to close, well, Lex and Lenny break into the museum, and by stealing the strand of hair from Superman, and with what Lex is going to be doing with that strand of hair, and well, then, what happens next is, because, with the Daily Planet now under, the leadership of David Warfield, well, how he's running Daily Planet, again, not a good sign, especially how the newspapers are turning out. And because Jeremy, Jeremy had wrote a letter to Superman, and it made its way to the Daily Planet, and well, coincidentally, Clark Kent reading the letter from Jeremy, and I think, Superman was not really sure about this at first. In fact, there was one moment where actually Superman very briefly finds himself in the new Fortress of Solitude. I feel like that the new Fortress of Solitude, just like this is an out of nowhere thing. Like, how did this come to be? Who cares? I mean, especially because with the aftermath of, say, Superman 2, like from the theatrical and the Donner cut, who cares? But I mean, the new Fortress of Solitude looks pretty cool. And basically, Superman being told, those that are in the new Fortress of Solitude, those that were on Krypton, like they speak directly to Superman, just like Jor-El, that, being told, Superman being told by them to flee Earth and to avoid its fate like Krypton, as, teaching Earth to rely on one man would lead to betrayal. But for Superman, he's not going to let that happen to Earth, The fact that he was only a baby when one planet was destroyed, his original home planet, and when he made his way on Earth, and obviously, he's not going to let that happen. So, Eventually, even after, like, say, the newspapers at the Daily Planet call out Superman saying that, he turned down the kid and so on, just golly. And Howard, like, seriously, you can't immediately assume that Superman has done this and that, just, and with what happens there. And yeah, because even, like, from Lois, Perry White, and obviously, Jimmy, and also even Lacey, finding, David's leadership and taking over Daily Planet getting out of hand, especially at a certain point. Even when David, basically it was his idea to bring Jeremy here to Daily Planet and make a big name out of this boy, which Jeremy didn't ask for. But I guess Jeremy, he took it well, because, yeah. And I mean, look, granted, Jeremy being responsible for getting Superman's attention because, I mean, yeah, this is a biggie, and yeah, surely, because something like this, that maybe possibly, no doubt that Superman could help out on. And yeah, because eventually Superman does so. And, yeah. And, ignoring what he was told from the New Fortress of Solitude, just, yeah, taking the chances, and, yeah, even when he meets with Jeremy and such, just, yeah. And that speech he made, and, yeah, thus, he's gonna plan on disposing all of the nuclear weapons, missiles, everything on Earth, and just dispose it in outer space. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, and with the whole nuclear arms thing, yeah. And confronting the threat of nuclear war by attempting to, rid the world of nuclear weapons, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, because, like, that sequence where he makes his way to the conference, press conference, and all of those around the world being there, very interesting. In fact, because who will be a supporter of Superman, whatever they say, everybody raising their hands, just, that sequence. But yeah. And yeah, so everybody around the world launching the nuclear weapons / missiles, and Superman collecting them in this giant big net. Now, again, with the visual effects in Superman 4, some being okay, and I feel like the part where we see Superman collecting all of the nuclear weapons by putting them all in this big net, it looked fine, but I don't know. Maybe, like, the strings. Maybe they should have flapped or something. You know what I mean? Because, with Superman's cape flapping in space, I'm just saying, but yeah. So yeah, Superman having collect all of the nuclear missiles, and by swinging around the rope and then tossing it, and it makes its way to the sun, being destroyed. So, yeah, that was taken care of. But little does Superman know that, yeah, with Lex Luthor having returned to Metropolis, what he's planning to do to oppose Superman. Because, yeah, Lex Luthor brings in 3 big guys that, being involved with nuclear stuff and the arms and such. Yeah, we have Jean-Pierre Dubios, if I'm saying his last name right, being played by good old Jim Broadbent. Yeah, nice to see Jim Broadbent being in something Superman. Harry Howler being played by the late William Hootkins. Yeah, best known for being Porkins in Star Wars Episode 4, and 2 years after doing this, The Quest for Peace, he would find himself being in Tim Burton's Batman. And yeah, because to think that The Quest for Peace just came out 2 years before another big superhero movie, that would become a success, and yeah, something else from Warner Brothers and DC, Tim Burton's Batman. Man, just, yeah. So yeah, again, William Hootkins plays Harry Howler, and finally, there's General Romoff, I think I'm saying that right, being played by Stanley Labor. So he brings in these 3 finest men, and they're talking about, like, say, Superman, and in order to take down Superman, and by pointing out to them the sun, and what he's planning to do that will be launched into the sun, because yeah, with Lex and Lenny having collected the strand of hair of Superman, and also some fabric, combining it, and yeah, we'll place it inside of a nuclear missile / weapon, and for it to be launched into space, Superman retrieving it, which that's what happens, and again, little does Superman know what was inside of that nuclear missile / weapon he picked up and threw into the sun, because, yeah, when it makes its way to the sun, it gives birth to Nuclear Man. Yes, and as was brought up earlier, because, yeah, and Nuclear Man, being played by Mark Pillow, if I might be mispronouncing his last name, but yeah. And actually, because The Quest for Peace is, like, the only film that Mark ever did, and he had a little bit of acting experience before this. But I think with what Mark brought to the performance of Nuclear Man, and Nuclear Man is voiced by Gene Hackman, so yeah, Mark's voice got dubbed over Hackman's, but I guess it's understandable, because again, the combination of Lex Luthor's genius with Superman's DNA, some fabric, etc., the sun, yeah, so I think it makes sense, and, seems okay. The fact that Nuclear Man has the same voice as Lex Luthor, but very menacing and such, First, I have fun. Yeah. But, as I was saying, Mark, I think, did a pretty good job with what he brought to the performance of Nuclear Man, with his facial expressions and being very intimidating looking. And yeah, because even with what the Nostalgia Critic pointed out about the birth of Nuclear Man, that made the number 5 spot in his top 11 dumbest Superman moments, where when Nuclear Man is born, he already has his supervillain wardrobe. Is that possible? Well, I guess you can make the argument, and as I did clearly bring up, I mentioned, a bit of fabric was put alongside with Superman's string of hair and so on, I don't know, but, or maybe he could have already, maybe this would have made a whole lot of sense if, say, he was already naked, but already Lex Luthor had his costume ready for him already, and when eventually Nuclear Man makes his way, to the tall building where Lex Luthor is residing at, but, who cares? But, like I said, the fact that there was a bit of fabric, supposedly, alongside with Superman's DNA, his strand of hair, it is what it is, so, what can you do? But anyways, oh, and by the way, because let's talk more about, say, Lacey. Now, Lacey as a character, and with Mariel's performance as Lacey, Lacey was an okay character, although I will say, because, the total absence of Lana Lang, because all that time, from the 3rd installment, building up to a possible romance between Clark and Lana, and the fact that Lana became a part of Daily Planet. She officially moved to Metropolis, got a position in Daily Planet, but when it came to this, she's totally absent. Why? I don't know. Maybe they just couldn't find a way to stick her in the 4th installment? Because my point being is that Lacey, she finds Clark very attractive and tries to make a move on Clark. But, Clark, it seems like, he has no romantic interest in Lacey. Well, because he does know that, and can tell, that Lacey is a nice person. And she is. And like I said earlier, at a certain point, Lacey starts to, view how her father taking over Daily Planet is not good. So, yeah. But anyway, so yeah. The moments that Lacey and Clark have, they're okay. And yeah, just Lacey trying to make a move on Clark, trying to go on a date with him, and, Clark trying to take it as business stuff, business talk and such. Yeah. And yeah, even when, say, there's, one moment where, supposedly Clark and Superman are to be there at the same time with Lacey and Lois. And even, say, Clark was supposed to go to this event with Lois. And yeah, that sequence where, because Superman decides to have some fun with Lois, and it's at that certain point where, because with what's happening with, the world and with the nuclear arms stuff, just overall, because a moment where Superman has some fun with Lois, they jump out of a window, Clark wanted some fresh air, but they literally jump out of the building from Clark's apartment, and I think I seem to recall that this is the first time we see Clark's apartment, in Metropolis, besides, well, obviously him residing at the Fortress of Solitude, but, so and because Superman, Clark, I should say, revealing to Lois that he is Superman and with those glasses. And yeah, them do, like, basically right here where it's trying to recapture the romantic flying scene in the first Superman film, but this not as good as the first, okay? And what was the point? Because I don't know, because I'm just simply saying, maybe you guys would feel the same way too, even what the Nostalgia Critic had to say about this. Yeah. And besides, with the same tune of music, the theme of Lois, being reprised, and with them flying around Metropolis. Yeah, because once again, the visual effects and with the flying scenes with Lois and Superman, yeah, not that good and polished, pretty much. Yeah. Especially because how Lois is falling at times. Like, she's falling so dainty like a feather. Oh, man. But, yeah. And eventually, yeah, because after all that, and, somehow, and after, yeah, when Clark reveals himself to Lois that he is Superman, well, she apparently remembers everything as of now. Even knowing, of course, yeah, whom Superman's actual name is. And once again, just like in the theatrical version of Superman 2, Superman doing the mind-scrambling kiss. And once again, all of Lois's memories of who Superman is, that he's also Clark Kent, etc., are wiped off. So, yeah, wiped away from Lois's memories. But anyways, and yeah, because also, and to still speed things up some, because, yeah, because more with, scenes with Lacey and involving Clark and Lois, because, yeah, like I said earlier, a moment where Superman and Clark were supposed to be there at the same time, with Lacey and Lois. And poor Clark/Superman having to go back and forth, in the building, like going from downstairs to the apartment building. And also the fact that Lois is supposed to interview Superman. Yeah, just overall, I mean, that sequence alone, was fine. And it's kind of fun to see, yeah, the troubled situations that Superman/Clark gets involved in, where, at any point, both Clark and Superman have to be there at the same time, but of course that can't happen. Just, yeah, that was pretty funny. Even when, like, one moment where Superman, I should say, makes a distraction by, because Lois had prepped up dinner, put a turkey in the oven, but Superman causing it to be burned up and such, and yeah, and causing Lois to check on it, and so on. And yeah, Superman has to go back to being Clark to be alongside with Lacey, just, yeah. But anyways. And then there's one moment where, yeah, just like in the first movie, Lex Luthor reaching out to Superman, a private frequency that only Superman can hear, even apparently managing to hack in one of the giant TV screens outside of Metropolis. Direct at Superman, and pointing out to Superman where he is, and even sharing to Superman what he was about to do, and yeah, Superman making his way to once again reunite with Lex Luthor, and just, yeah. And yeah, because Superman had fell for what Luthor was going to do, but the actual reason why Luthor summoned Superman, well, was to meet Nuclear Man. Yes, the fact that, yeah, Superman is seeing another powerful being just like him, and with some details that Lex Luthor shares to Superman, and when it would lead to, like, say, yeah, Luthor ordering Nuclear Man to take down Superman. And by the way, because, yeah, another mentioning of, like, Lex Luthor and Nuclear Man, because, yeah, a moment where Luthor shows off to Harry, Jean Perry, and General Ramoth, Nuclear Man, and basically firing all three of them. Just, yeah, you're fired! Just the moments where Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor shouts, oh, it's just brilliant, especially in the first movie. Mr. Smucker! I love that, yeah. And by the way, to name some of the other characters, because, yeah, the U.S. president in the fourth installment was played by Robert Betty. Yeah. And also some marshals, like Tall Marshal being played by Bradley Lavelle, Marshal number 1 being played by Mac McDonald, Russian Generals 1 and 2 being played by Czeslaw Groshalowski, if I'm saying that right, and Steve Plydus, yeah, and Russian General number 3 was John Hollis, yeah. Czeslaw was Russian General number 1, and Steve Plydus was number 2, yeah. And also, yeah, UN Guard Japanese, LG Kusara, if I'm saying that right, Senator of the Pentagon, being played by Bob Sherman, and a bunch of others, just, yeah. Oh, yeah, and the teacher at the JFK High School was played by Jane Brooke, so, yeah. And also, Luther at one point had these 2 twin ladies, I presume, yeah, because Dixie and, was it Lexi, I think? Just, yeah. Well, and also apparently one moment where Lex Luthor's girlfriend pops in this, like, Victorian-style dress or something. This came out of nowhere. And Lex Luthor's girlfriend, uncreditedly, being played by Samantha Waysome. Just, yeah, I think I might be mispronouncing the name some, but, yeah, anyways. Yeah, again, just out of nowhere, just having this Victorian-style dress getup, just, like, again, where did that come from? Just, yeah. And I do presume that it is her, so, yeah. Who I just named, the actress. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, obviously I could have sworn that, obviously, those 2 twin girls that were with Luther for a brief moment, or just very quickly, were there. And also, yeah, we don't get that much of, Lenny in this, but he was still okay. The moments that he has, and, well, most prominently, being responsible for breaking out his uncle from prison and helping out his uncle retrieve Superman's 1 strand of hair. Yeah, and where that would lead to next. Yeah. But yeah, and, yeah, coming back to where I was, where, yeah, Superman meets Nuclear Man, and the fight sequences that they both have, yeah. And actually, another fun fact, originally, there was going to be a different-looking version of Nuclear Man, and he would have almost resembled Bizarro, but that didn't come to be, and it is in the deleted scenes, so, yeah. But back on track, because, yeah, the fight sequences, and with the first one that we see of both Nuclear Man and Superman, yeah, I mean, it's fine, and, you know, with some decent visual effects, you know, they're not the best, but still, yeah, just the fights that Superman and Nuclear Man have, and when it would, like, say, lead up to them in outer space, and being on the moon, and, geez, because you could even see in the background, you know, Nuclear Man, like, yeah, behind Superman, Nuclear Man, what's supposed to look like outer space is a black curtain. You can see a bit of the black curtain. And just like Doug Walker said, this is like an Ed Wood movie. Almost. But, you know, hey, at least Superman 4, The Quest for Peace had a decent budget than Ed Wood's movies. No hard feelings on the late Ed Wood himself. But, yeah. And, yeah, because, like, when they're on the moon, because it's understandable, but it could have been a heck of a lot better, because some slow motion fight that happens, you know, I get it, but again, if it could have been better, you know, just, I think for anything to anybody, it'd be kind of boring, just with how it was done, but, you know, still. And yeah, just some things that Nuclear Man does, and when he's back at Metropolis, and even, like, say, one moment where Nuclear Man, you know, takes apart the Statue of Liberty, literally, the entirety of it, and, you know, because the Statue of Liberty being in Metropolis, so, yeah. Isn't that kind of, confusing, because, like, okay, the city is supposed to be Metropolis, but would Metropolis have the Statue of Liberty? Because I don't know. I guess just in the world of Superman, you know, just you get what I'm saying. Just, yeah. But anyways, I don't want to dwell on it. Point being is that, yeah, when one moment where Nuclear Man rips off the Statue of Liberty, the entirety of it, and, well, taking it into the city of Metropolis and dropping it on the citizens, but luckily, of course, Superman being there to, you know, pick up the Statue of Liberty, and, yeah, the faraway shots where we see Superman carrying off the Statue of Liberty, not that good, but at least the close-up shots, they look okay, where we see Christopher Reeve holding on to a giant replica of the Statue of Liberty, and when, yeah, Superman puts it back in its place, well, one moment where Nuclear Man actually, you know, when he attacks Superman, because we do see that Nuclear Man has these pointy, claws. And at one point he scratches Superman, affecting him with radiation. And this causes Superman to become very sick and ill. And yeah, he's losing his strength, and he's not very well. And well, this leading to, with Clark Kent's absence from Daily Planet, because, well, Superman having to play the part of Clark Kent, saying that he's come down with some sickness. Yeah, that he's not feeling very well. He's very under the weather. Yeah. And apparently, because after Superman became affected by Nuclear Man's radiation, this making its way to the newspapers at the Daily Planet, where, yeah, Lois has a good point where they gone too far under David's leadership, where apparently on the newspapers it says that Superman is dead, and somehow David most prominently recovered and got Superman's cape. And how did they get Superman's cape? What? We didn't see what happened to Superman's cape. Did it just, because he still had it on him when he collapsed, right? So what happened from there? It's just one of those things that, it's not explained, but yeah. But yeah, so Lois complaining to David and just letting David have it, that they've gone too far and has no more interest in working under David's leadership of the Daily Planet. And by this point, Lacey has had enough too of what her daddy is doing at the Daily Planet, and, setting her dad very straight. Stuff it. Yeah, rightfully said from Lacey. Yeah. And to think, because even, whom is running Daily Planet, to have his own daughter be pissed off by what he's doing, that says a lot. But yeah, and when seeing Clark Kent at his apartment, Superman as Clark Kent, at the fireplace, he's not feeling very well, and even when Lois, she checks up on Clark, and and seeing the reason why Clark was absent, from Daily Planet. I even say David was wanting to fire Clark for being absent, but thankfully that didn't come to be. And yeah, the moment between Lois and Clark, the dialogue that each of them have, and Lois helping out Clark with his situation and such, it was okay. And yeah, and then when we would see Clark once again, because he would become very old looking and having white hair and such, because that took quite an effect on him, the radiation from Nuclear Man. And this escalates quickly, where he whips out the green crystal, the one last green crystal he found from the crystal ship, inside of the Kent farmhouse. Yeah, by using it to charge him up, because like I said, that green crystal came in handy at a certain point, because the green crystal that he found, and what it would do to him, it's nice to see. Yeah. And again, it escalated quickly for what the green crystal did for him. And there was one moment, and because after some more scenes we have of Lex and Nuclear Man, and actually, because we learned that whenever Nuclear Man is not in the sight of the sun hitting directly at Nuclear Man, Nuclear Man is right there where the sun is, and if the sun does not hit him, and if it's blocking the sun from Nuclear Man, then he just powers down. And Lex describing it to his nephew Lenny, that it's like him at nighttime, just down and so on, with what Lex specifically said. So that's the one weakness of Nuclear Man. So yeah, and with Nuclear Man, because apparently at one point out of nowhere, Nuclear Man has a fascination such with Lacey. Okay, this just happens out of nowhere. But I don't want to make a huge complaint about it. And and as I said, after Superman / Clark Kent is re-healed thanks to that green crystal, it heals him. It makes him feel better. Yep, he's back to his old Superman self. no longer being weak and affected by the radiation that Nuclear Man infected on him. Yep, the green crystal did its job. Yep, Superman's back in action. And when it comes to Nuclear Man trying to locate and find Lacey, yeah, Nuclear Man coming face to face with Superman and demanding to know where the girl is. And Superman will not do that at first. And then Nuclear Man unleashing chaos around the streets of Metropolis, making some of the citizens float and causing some things to explode and such. But yeah, Superman giving in, and we'll take him directly there, but only to, trick Nuclear Man and trick him to going into the elevator, and where, yeah, the site is not in plain sight for Nuclear Man to be powered up and such. Yeah, once again, Nuclear Man powers down, Superman retrieves the elevator and taking it to space and disposing it in the moon. And yeah, because that's where the whole moon fight happened. And just, yeah, because, and there's even, a moment where Superman, he notices an American flag, the pole is tilted, but he fixes it, and yeah. And again, like I said, that whole moon fight that happens, and even when, say, Nuclear Man buries Superman in the ground of the moon, and then Nuclear Man making his way back to Earth, to Metropolis, to locate and find Lacey. And yeah, and once again, Lacey and her daddy, David, are going at it once again. And, well, then, Nuclear Man stepping in, knocks out David, then snatches Lacey, and thus they make their way outside. And, well, Superman, he unburied himself from the moon. And, yeah, this is another biggie where, yeah, Nuclear Man literally takes Lacey out into space. How and why? Seriously. Would it make sense if maybe for both Nuclear Man and Superman, they've, made a special shield for Lacey so she can, be okay in space? You know what I mean? Like an invisible shield? Maybe, but just, I don't know. Because, look, she's in the hands of Nuclear Man, then Superman. I don't know. I don't know if that helps. Maybe, possibly, because being right with them, she's touching them, and maybe, with their powers, it allows her to be okay in space and not die and breathe. It is confusing, and it's definitely a WTF moment right there in Superman 4. As if not everything in the Quest for Peace is a big WTF thing, just, But anyway, so yeah. Eventually, yeah, Superman saving Lacey. I almost said Lana. Because, yeah, Superman, he actually moves the moon, blocking the sun, and Nuclear Man powering down, and yeah, Lacey was slipping out of Nuclear Man's, hand and arm, and yeah, Superman catching Lacey, taking her back to Earth, and apparently that's the last we see of her. Yeah. And then Superman finally disposing Nuclear Man at a nuclear power plant. And with this, it actually provides more power and energy, really making the lights shine. So, at least that's a good sign. Yeah. But overall, yeah, in the end, Nuclear Man is finally and officially defeated. Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, and after that, well, and to speed things up still, because yeah, we're near the end of the film, thank God for you. But yeah, because somehow, and thankfully, Perry White managed to get the rights back to, running Daily Planet, and for David Warfield to no longer be in the position to run Daily Planet. So good on Perry White, yeah. Convincing those, the boards and such to, with what Perry wanted for Daily Planet, and yeah, and the hopes of Daily Planet being better than ever, but not under David's leadership. So, yeah. And it would have been nice if maybe we would have seen Lacey once more. I have a feeling that probably, maybe, she would want to stick with, working with Daily Planet. Maybe alongside with Perry White, getting that big-time position like Perry White, and, just in your face, Daddy, because, with how you were running Daily Planet, just, you know what I'm saying, just, yeah. But yeah, and as for Superman slash Clark, well, because yeah, I mean, all ends well for Superman and slash Clark Kent, because yeah, making another speech where, you know, with what he did at first, eventually realizing that he was wrong, you know, that pretty good, decent speech that he gives towards the end of the film to the conference and such, everybody outside, yeah. And by the way, because also, yeah, some of the other characters that we don't get that much of, like Jimmy and Jeremy. Well, I mean, Jimmy Olsen, because, you know, and with how much we had gotten him in the other Superman films, was fine. And I think with how much we had gotten Jimmy in this, was okay too. But yeah, I mean, there would have been more stuff to do with Jeremy. Like, actually, there would have been a scene where, it would have been at the very end of the movie, where Superman would have taken Jeremy for a ride, you know, flying in the air. That would have been at the very end of the movie. That would have been nice if that had been kept in the film, but just, yeah, just one of those things, yeah. Jeremy served his purpose in the film, but yeah. And then, one of the last things we see in The Quest for Peace is, yeah, Superman disposing Lex and his nephew Lenny. Superman takes Lenny to this special place where, yeah, he can be taken care of and such, and a reverend being there, just, you know, Boy Town, just, you know what I'm talking about, just, yeah. The priest, yeah, the priest of Boys Town, being played by Mark Haven. So yeah, Superman takes him to that place, Boys Town. And also, yeah, Lenny turns out to be a pretty good drummer. He had some drumsticks when he and his uncle were planning to hide by the next year. And Lex throwing away poor Lenny's drumsticks, just, yeah. And when he made his way to Boys Town, he asked the priest if, you know, you wouldn't happen to have a drum set? Just, yeah. And when Superman takes Lex, yeah, back to prison, yeah, and all the other prisoners are happy to see Lex come back. Hey, it's Mozart, you know, the Mozart singer, and they start to whistle like what Lex whistled, you know, da 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 da, that. And yep, and that being the last scene that we get in The Quest for Peace, and I think it's kind of fitting, and just like in the first Superman film, because yeah, you know, the last characters we see at the very end of those two Superman films is, yeah, Superman and Lex Luthor wounding up in jail. And yeah, Superman mentioning to Luthor that he will see him in 20 years. And coincidentally, because yeah, almost 20 years where we would see the characters of Superman and Lex Luthor make their way back to the big screen in you-know-what. And that will be coming next. Yeah. And then the last shot being reused once again. Yeah. Superman flying above Earth's atmosphere and smiling for the camera, and boom. That's the end. Yeah. You know, and it's sad to think that, you know, with Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, being another disastrous Superman film, and at the time, this killed the Superman film series, to think that this would be the last time we would ever see these iconic cast members from Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder as those characters. Yeah, let that sink in. But, you know, it's not their fault. They did the best they could acting in this movie as those characters. Everybody else, just, yeah. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Overall, my final things to say about it. Again, it is what it is, sadly. But for me, like I said earlier, I can manage this. It's okay for me, you know, when watching this. Like I said, I like the idea that was done for the storyline of the fourth Superman film and what Christopher Reeve had in mind. But if only it could have been a heck of a lot better, and with what Christopher was hoping could happen for the fourth and final installment of the Superman film series, and where he would play the title character. But sadly, this Superman film once again had bad luck. This time, major bad luck. Yeah. The storyline, the cast of characters, the funny, emotional moments, the visual effects, you know, because, yeah, if only the storyline had been much stronger, much better. The casting, you know, I think that most of them, they weren't that bad at all. But, you know, still. And the visual effects, oh yeah, they could have been a heck of a lot better. Some that I thought were okay, but the rest, yeah, it's obvious. The music and score, I've been wanting to mention him. The late, Alex Courage, because, being responsible for, doing the music and score for, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Alexander Courage, sorry. We would know him best for doing the music and scores for Star Trek, the original series, and how rightfully so, reusing the music and the bits and pieces of music and such that John Williams had wrote, along with his new piece of music that he wrote for Superman 4, was actually pretty good. Yeah, the music and score, never a disappointment when it comes to, like the superhero comic book movie adaptations, and when it comes to the Superman films, always a delight to hear. And when, because, the first batch of Superman films, along with the next one, reusing the iconic Superman theme that John Williams wrote, and not to mention that Alexander Courage was good friends with John Williams, so, that's another good sign right there. And, certain moments here and there, I think that there are probably maybe just a few good things to come from this movie, but not a lot. Just, Overall, it's a shame how Superman 4, The Quest for Peace turned out. Just what more do I really have to say? And I'm giving Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, well, might as well. 5 out of 10 stars, yes. Even though I do like some of this. I think it's okay. I can handle this, Still, the best rating I can give it is, 5 out of 10 stars, 5 out of 10 stars for Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And what about you guys? What did you think of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace itself? Any of you, by any chance, thought that this was okay, if you're kind of on the same page as me? Do you like what this movie was trying to do with its storyline, the idea incorporated into this, and that, Christopher Reeve had, tried to attend for it to happen in this film, but it didn't turn out to be what he was hoping at first. Just, Do you think that some of the cast members and the newcomers, they did pretty good? And with Nuclear Man being in this, Lacey, David, and, with what else was happening in the film. And because some pretty good decent shots, with the visual effects, like with the Great Wall of China, the volcano, those two were actually pretty good, and those were actual models. They looked pretty good too. Couldn't forget to mention that as well. And do you think that, with from say Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Gene Hackman, and the others, they did pretty good because, they did the best they could, and once again, and for one last time, playing those characters, and just, And if by any chance, maybe some of you actually do like Superman 4, but just overall, what do you think of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, of course, continuing on with the Superman review marathon. And, well, obviously you guys know what's next, because almost 20 years after, at the time, the 4th and final Superman film, well, we would see the titled character himself return to the big screen, and the hopes that maybe this would be the awesome comeback and such for the Man of Steel himself in 2006, well, sadly, didn't go as planned. And of course, you know what that is. Where Superman in 2006 returns. Yeah, but yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and until Superman returns, peace out.